Video is going to be associated with the November 23rd class on ArcGIS Online. Will be a fairly basic introduction, just sort of how we move from ArcPro to ArcGIS Online, and sort of what the purpose and use of ArcGIS Online is. Definitely a lot more you can sort of explore over time on Arc Online, but today should give you at least sort of a good foundation. So ArcGIS Online is really sort of a resource for storing and visualizing your data, through the internet. And what you can do with it is, both sort of load data and create interactive web maps that people can do, share data, with people at your organization or more broadly, or create sort of interactive apps, like the one here, where anyone could sort of come in, engage with sort of information that you've loaded. This is one that sort of looks at different cities in the U.S. and evaluates sort of how tightly large-scale anchor institutions cluster in them, lets you sort of learn a little bit about where the clusters might be, how populated they are, and sort of what institutions are effectively in there. And what we're going to want to do, though, is actually be able to sort of figure out how we move from Pro to there. So, in order to interface, what I'm doing here is just loading kind of one piece of data, the New York, city zips in the pandemic. Relatively basic one that shows the zip code and sort of a couple of small pieces, of information about those. And all of the stuff that we would do for ArcGIS Online or sharing is all really kind of going to be here under share. So we're going to sort of play with this one today, Web Mapper and Web Layer, which are sort of the compendium units together, and it's the engagement with these two, which is how we get data from our Pro desktop to online. And one of the cool things that you guys, if you have not explored with yet, so you won't sort of see this, but I have obviously because I'm logged into my company, is when we start loading stuff to ArcGIS Online, we have access to it on our desktop. And that's actually fairly neat, right? So we can not only load things onto Arc Online, but we can grab things that are there, bring them locally, edit them, and then sort of save them and push them back, to our ArcGIS Online page, right? So, you don't have to follow me here. You don't have sort of this data, but if I were to open something like this and sort of grab, some data from maybe a project in Pittsburgh that we were working on, and sort of grab in, this sort of layer of real estate data or such, it actually would load it, right? I would sort of see, well, not that one. That one seems to be busted. I don't know what that is. Maybe those are leases. Yeah, those might be sort of leases, for an institution there. Or if I'm to drag in some data on locations where certain students sort of live, and I can kind of zoom in and start to see that data, loaded in sort of a hyper-local area here, right? So I've got all the stuff that would have been online, a bunch of different layers here, parcels, places where it's a landowner. These are sort of where students live. It's all stuff I sort of host online, for a map that actually looks like this, right? So if I were to click on that map, I could sort of see in Pro what a map that is hosted online and is sort of shared and aggregated for others looks like. This is sort of what it is. So again, interesting, right? I can sort of engage with things that are meant for online in Pro, and I can push stuff back and forth between the two. But in order to get there, let's do sort of the very basics. And the very basics are sort of how do I start by taking something here, right, that lives in ArcGIS and ArcPro and get it online. And so we're going to actually share a map, which means any data that you see here is going to come, as well as the base map. And that's really important that when you do, share a web map as opposed to a web layer, right, which would allow you to either just publish this, New York City zips, or overwrite New York City zips if it already existed. We're going to actually do the actual whole web map. So it means that any layers we see here, as well as any tables, as well as the base map, are going to come. So, as I was explaining in the in-person lesson today, be cognizant when you do this that you don't have a ton of random data you don't need that you're loading, right? So be prepared only with sort of data that you're going to work with. So, maybe I'll change my base map, because I don't love it. Go with sort of one of the light gray ones right here. Let it do its thing. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to load this data, right? And you can load as many, individual, features as you want. They'll all sort of go into the same web-based feature layer. So just you control data as you see fit, whether you want to load things individually or sort of as a group. So I'll come on over here to share, and I'll share it as the web map. Now, it's going to fail at first, and that's okay. I sort of want to explain why. Give it a name here. We'll name this, New York City zip example. Example of COVID data in NYC to demo Arc Online. Say COVID is my tag. Only things to sort of keep in mind here, right? You can edit this when you get into the ArcGIS Online too, but like, are we loading data in a way that, it's interactive, people can click on stuff and visualize it? Or are we making it editable, right? Are we loading it in such a way that people can change it on ArcGIS Online? And you're the only one who's going to know what works for you, right? Are you going to load something that you're making a web-based map you want people to look at, or are you loading something that you and colleagues are going to exchange online and sort of edit together? For now, we'll keep it at exploratory. If you have folders, where you might be storing stuff, you can sort of load them here. You guys don't have folders yet on ArcGIS Online, so you wouldn't have to worry about it. And the share with here just sort of assures, like, is this something that's going to remain private to people in my organization, or are you able to share it publicly? If you want things to be sort of public, just make sure everything is selected. So let's analyze it. It's not going to work. It says the service layer is different, and it effectively says that my sort of layer here needs sort of numeric IDs. So these are two common errors that'll come up when you load a map, and they're pretty easy to fix. The first one is that the map itself, if you're loading a map, not if you're loading a layer, but a map, always wants the coordinate system to be Web Mercator. So no matter what, you need to have it be 1984 Web Mercator if you're going to push from Pro to Online. So you want to make sure you change that. And then the second thing it's telling me here is a common one. It says, like, hey, you need to allow the assignment of unique numeric IDs under map properties. That's up here under general, right? So I right-clicked the map 4, got to properties, allow assignment, hit OK. Boom. Analyze, doing its thing, and no errors, so it's ready to go. So all I got to do now is hit share. It'll take sort of a second here. Let's see sort of how long it takes to load. We'll just sort of confirm that we've succeeded, and then the next video will pick up actually in a web browser, Chrome or Firefox, Safari, Edge, whatever, where we will log into ArcGIS Online and start to manipulate our data there. So given that this is probably going to take sort of a quick second, I'll stop this video now and sort of see you on the next one.